We're four friends with hot takes on food media.
And we're here to review and recap all kinds of food shows in bite-sized seasons.
Plus, virtual potlucks, cooking adventures, and food memes.
Welcome to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
Hey, it's Justine.
And it's me, Meg.
Welcome to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes. This season, we have been covering The Chef Show, Season 1, Volume 1. In The Chef Show, writer, director, and food enthusiast Jon Favreau and Chef Roy Choi explore food in and out of the kitchen with accomplished chefs and celebrity friends. And guys, we're finally done. We're wrapping it up. This whole season ends today with our potluck.
And then we'll never have to talk about the Chef Show again.
We're so excited to move on to the next season. I think this is the first season where we're just like, thank God it's done. Time to move on. Like, I think sometimes we've gotten a little tired by the end, but like, I feel like we were tired by episode 2. This week is the potluck. So we've all made a dish from this season of the Chef Show. We're a version of it, and we're going to share.
I like that or a version of it. I'm like, you looking at me?
Well, that also, I'm gonna go up first, and I also had some trouble finding the right ingredients, so I had to do a slight version of mine. I attempted to make the grilled cheese.
I love that we start out with attempted.
They're all attempts. The grilled cheese.
The grilled cheese.
The infamous grilled cheese.
So first off,
Look at all that cheese.
there's 4 cheeses you're supposed to use. Yellow cheddar, a white cheddar, and then Gruyere and Parmesan. My store, my local grocery, had no slicing Parmesan. I even they have a special cheese shop section, and I even asked, and she's like, we have 2 kinds of Parmesan, but they will both crumble if you try to slice it. And so I was like, okay. So I went ahead and just got smoked Gouda, thinking I'll just grab another cheese that I like. And then they had run out of Gruyere that you could slice. They were completely out. So I had to go just get Gruyere and try to slice it myself. And let me tell you, I am bad at that. But I tried it. So then you're supposed to use sourdough bread. And there were only 2 loaves of sourdough bread left in the whole store. And they were not sliced. So I had to try to slice that myself as well.
Amanda, surely you can slice things.
Sure, sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
If I have the right knives.
Did you not have a bread knife on hand?
I did not have a bread knife, and then found the bread knife after I was done making everything and was really upset.
It is hard to slice bread without a bread knife.
And that truly, it is what it is. But the sourdough, I will say, the sourdough is delicious. It's delicious bread because I've eaten quite a bit of it now. You know, I put the oil in the pan, and we now have a gas stove, which I've only had a gas stove at one other place that we lived, and I'm much more attuned with having an electric stove. So definitely a bit of me trying to gauge temperature and everything. The first sandwich I went to make, I definitely think I had the heat too high.
I can see that the oil or the butter is a little burned there.
Yes. Even though I put all the cheese on there, you can see then once I got it off the stove, it was a little burnt.
So I have a question about the recipe itself. So it tells you to preheat and then add the bread, or do you add the bread to the cold pan and then bring to temperature?
It said to preheat, so I did preheat, and then I put the oil in, but the oil didn't bubble or anything. The oil was just sitting there, so I was afraid it wasn't hot enough, which I think is where I messed up on the first sandwich, is I was worried I wasn't heating it enough. But then once I put the bread in with the butter on it, then it started to grill. And then I realized it was a little too hot.
Starting from a hot pan is maybe the most common method. So yeah, that totally makes sense. And I'd say it probably is better to err on the side of too hot than not hot enough. Although Either way is a bit hard to fix, because if it's not hot enough, you get a soggy ass sandwich. And too hot, you get a burned sandwich. And it's not like you can unburn a sandwich.
Yeah. And so, unfortunately, and this is a problem I have had with grilled cheese before, where I've started too hot, is the cheese was not fully melted, but the bread was very toasted. Then I went for a second sandwich, and I just left the Gruyere off this time because the Gruyere was like just not melting no matter what I did. And I think part of the problem is it was just like having it not be like a uniform slice. And I don't know if because I didn't get the kind that was like pre-sliced or that it was more of like a block cheese. I don't know if the melting temp was slightly different, but I did the other 3 cheeses. However, this is where I messed up on slicing the bread. As you can see, it kind of crumbled a little bit. And this is where I think I overcompensated and went a little bit too cool on the sandwich. But I will say this was the most, like, it does not look attractive, but this was the most delicious sandwich. The cheese melted in the perfect way, and it like went into like the bread in like a really delicious way. It just looks awful, but delicious. And then I tried one more time, and I was like, maybe I don't have enough cheese. And this was a bad idea, because I think I should have just left it with 1 slice of each, because then the cheese... But this was like the most perfectly toasted bread I got. And I think I finally got the temp right on the last one. I just put too much cheese on it. Also, I think the melting temperature of the Gouda and the cheddar was different, because all of my cheddar melted really nicely and beautifully.
The second to last picture, is that your final sandwich or is that your penultimate sandwich?
The second to last picture is my final sandwich.
Yeah, I mean, the color looks nice. I think the cheese looks pretty melted.
Yes.
Sometimes it takes some trial and error to get the right temp on a grilled cheese. I assume these all tasted good because it's cheese and bread and butter.
Yeah, they all tasted good. I just think the best tasting one was like the middle one. And I think this is something I would try again, but probably just do it with the cheddar cheese and make sure I got pre-sliced bread of some kind.
Do you make grilled cheese often?
No, I used to in like middle and high school based on like how my mom did grilled cheese. But then, okay, so this was a bit of I was trying to redeem myself in my own eyes, because the first time I ever made dinner for Jeremy when we first started dating, I made him a grilled cheese, and it was burnt on the outside and not melted on the inside. And very quickly after that, he was like, I'll make us food.
So you never made grilled cheese again?
Honestly, I'm trying to remember. I don't think I personally have made grilled cheese again since that incident, because I was so horrified.
And how many years ago was that?
Almost 13 years ago, like 12 and a half years ago, because we started dating in 2009, and it was summer of 2009 when I made that awful grilled cheese for him. And I've been so
Your
scarred.
last grilled cheese till today.
So I will say this is a triumph compared to what I have done before. If I did this again, I would just have to be a little more attuned to the heat and like exactly like where I wanted it. And then, like I said, pre-sliced bread, because I think I had trouble slicing it myself in like getting the thickness exactly how I wanted it, since I had one that was kind of crumbly and then one that was a little thicker. But honestly, I'll probably, like, my husband, Jeremy, makes the most amazing grilled cheese. Like, I don't know what he does, but it's so perfect.
He could share the knowledge.
Yeah, he could teach you his secret ways. You could be the John to his Roy.
Then you could also make grilled cheese, just like him.
I also burned my hand, as I told you guys earlier, but for the listeners to know, I did burn my hand on the pan.
Yeah, that pan looks like it will get hot fast.
Yeah, it is a purely, metal pan.
I don't know what Jeremy's technique is, and I know that you followed the recipe and did what it told you to do, but I like starting from a cold, dry pan and just having the oil on the bread itself, and that's always served me pretty well.
Maybe I should try something like that.
You should find something else you haven't made in 13 years and make that too.
I don't like cooking. Like, I know this is a food show, but like, this just confirmed to me once again, like, I prefer baking and doing things more on that side. Because when it comes to like actually like cooking and having oil and like a pan and heat, it really is not my favorite thing to do with my life or my time. I mean, I know, like, I know, and I have learned so much, and I do better from the things that I've learned on this, like, this journey that we've had in the past couple of years. But like if I come home from work, I'm not like, oh man, I want to pull out a pan and cook something. Like, that's just not enjoyable to me. But the idea of like, oh, I could pull out like a sheet pan and make a cookie or something, like, that seems much more enjoyable to me.
Yeah, but the lifestyle that leads to is not ideal.
Yes,
as
that
you're
is diabetes.
getting up
I'm
there in
aware.
age. I don't want to call you out as someone in their 30s to make the decisions you're making right now will be the rest of your life. Keep practicing. It's just bread and cheese.
Yeah.
You can get numerous of those for not a lot of money, and just keep practicing. And I think you'll make a banger grilled cheese.
Yes.
Have you guys ever used or owned a specialty cheese slicing implement?
No, but is that the one where it's like the wire thing?
That's one kind. So there's several kinds. There's cheese slicers that kind of look like peelers. They just have that straight metal bar that you sort of peel the cheese with. And then, yes, Amanda, there are these little ones that are a marble slab that have an arm with a wire. And it really looks like those paper cutters you used in school, with the big long blade. But instead of a blade, you've got a little wire.
Oh,
and
wow.
we owned one of those for a while, but eventually all of the wires broke. And to be honest, it never worked that well anyway, so I haven't replaced it. But I'm thinking about maybe just getting a cheese knife.
Yeah, ooh, a cheese knife. And even if you have a box grater, there should be one side that has a really big slit.
Yes, that's true too.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? It's hard to slice cheese if it's cold. If you've got a big block of cold cheese, that's hard to cut through.
Yeah, and I left
hurt
it
yourself.
out for a little while to try to warm it up a bit. Like, I didn't pull it straight from the fridge. Like, when I bought it, because I had to wait until I got paid, I did leave it out for a little bit to try to like soften it to some extent.
Well, I also encourage you to keep practicing your grilled cheese game because it's really tasty.
Yeah, and like it's a good basic.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like I feel like I was better at it when I was like 12.
Yeah, and you were fearless, I feel. I think you're a little too afraid.
I think that's fair.
You got this.
So yes, that was my grilled cheese adventure.
Yay.
What about you, Justine? What did you make today for this?
The whole season of Chef Show that we watch, I was just not really generally inspired by much of anything, because a lot of it was just like either like I've made this before or this is a completely meat dish, it doesn't apply to me sort of thing. When I do these potlucks, I really want to like go out of the box of trying something new for me personally. If I didn't just do a pie last time, I think I would have done the galette, but just because it would been like a repeat, I didn't want to do that. So I did a little out of the box. I just
The beignets?
put everything. The beignet.
Literally out of a box. Sorry, it was a bad joke.
Almost did that. The box actually comes with dairy in it, but you would not believe how often beignets came up in my world, like on my Pinterest, like on the internet, like everybody, like on my Instagram profile. I'm like, the universe is telling me to make the beignets, but I'm not
No,
gonna.
it's because they're
Even though
tracking
were,
your
like,
history through cookies. That's why you're seeing all that.
Gosh, the internet.
You said no to the internet.
So one thing I was interested in making, and I did make, was the pad Kee Mao.
Oh.
That's what I made. Because as mentioned previously a million times, I like Thai food. So I think I even said, I'm like, oh, I've never made pad Kee Mao or tried it. So I did. That's basically the thing I settled on. I'm not saying like, I wasn't super inspired by this season as I was in previous seasons. And I got to go to like my local Asian market, the 99 Ranch, which I hadn't been to
I love 99
in a
Ranch.
while. Yes, such good times. I was in search for a couple things there, their local produce, and then also a vegetarian oyster sauce and a vegetarian fish sauce. I did not find a vegetarian fish sauce, and I looked in 2 stores, so I know it exists. Unfortunately that day I could not find it, but I was able to find an oyster sauce, so at least I was able to get that. Basically, I looked at their ingredients in the animation exploding, and I wrote those all down, and I also referenced 3 other pad Kee Mao recipes that I found, like one just being like sort of generic one from Minnesota, and then another that was strictly all vegan. I tried to really find recipes, but none were exactly the kind that they made on the show, so I made adjustments here and there. I noticed like on the show that they used tomatoes in theirs, and I didn't see anybody else like using tomatoes. So like that was a key difference. But most of all, just looking around, I think it's, it's a good recipe in that it's a use what you have sort of thing. So since I have that and like my own sort of dietary restrictions right now, it's not exactly what they made in the show, but it's kind of like a version of that, But I will say in the future, when I'm eating more of those kinds of things that are in it, I will add them to it.
So what did you put in it?
Got my list. It's one of those things where I had to like make my own like recipe and make my own recipe instructions thing again. I feel like I haven't done this since I made my own like Totino's rolls. Justino's throwback.
Yeah, check out that recipe on our website.
Yes. I wanted to have tofu in mine. Mirasota's had tofu in hers, so I used her reference of like 2 packages of tofu that you just, prepare in, diced and add to the frying pan, fry them off till crispy, and then put those aside. So that's a difference from this, just making tofu and having that set aside. And then the sauce. I will say I learned that like the sauce is sort of key in how pad Kee Mao is made. It's like whatever vegetables you have, but like the sauce. A lot of people use like a dark soy sauce and a light soy sauce. The Chef Show recipe, Jazz's recipe did not. She used oyster sauce and fish sauce. So I used a little bit of a combination because, like I said, I couldn't find a fish sauce. But a lot of recipes are like, you can just sub in soy sauce. Whatever you don't have, you can sub in a soy sauce or a tamarind. Whatever flavor that you're feeling, that's the family you're going for. So if you want it to be like more fishy, add the fish sauce or add more of the oyster sauce. So I did a couple tablespoons then of like oyster sauce and then paired that with the tamari because gluten-free soy sauce. But I was also doing a lot of like eyeballing in this too, based off of like how many noodles I had, how much this I had. So I started with a measured amount of sauce and then added more in later. Sort of thing. You feel it. That's how they did it on the show. Just looking at them, throwing stuff in the thing. I got the wide rice noodles. I got those from 99 Ranch, the kind that you just soak on the side and then throw them in. Let's see, I added some minced ginger, a whole bunch of green onions, just chop those. I did it long ways like they do traditionally instead of the short rounds. And I got a bunch of baby bok choy. I'd never prepared bok choy before.
Ooh, I love baby bok choy. Nom 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 nom.
Yeah, and oh my god, you can get like a huge bag for like so cheap at the 99 Ranch. Oh man, and they have so many. I'm like, whoa, so many different. It was a lot. It was a lot of fun of choosing my bok choy to bring home. Oh, and yes, and then the Thai basil, which I think I still have a bunch because they sell you a bunch of Thai basil. Again, it's just like put in as much of that as you'd like. Like on recipes, it says like a bunch, like like a fistful, pretty much. That's your measurement. And then so I got a large tomato and add that to try it. Traditionally, also you would want to add like red and green like bell peppers. I didn't this go round, but that's basically it. Like that's their recipe except for some like garlic and They used not green onions. I wanted to use green onions. They used regular like white onions. Whatever you like. Like I said, I prepared my noodles. I prepared my tofu. Did the sauce on the side. And then just cook your veg as needed, as much as you want to cook them. Sort of, like I said, I had like the tomatoes, the onions, the bok choy. So you're just sauteing them for like 2 to 4 minutes, you know, usually. And then just start adding the sauce. It's a real quick recipe once you have everything like prepared. Everything's pretty much cooked and you just put it in and heat it up and mix it like they do on the show.
Do you have a wok?
I've got, it's not a wok, but it is a wide round pan.
Nice.
That I use. It's similar, it's wok-ish.
I was just listening to friend of the podcast, J. Kenji Lopez Alt, on a podcast, and he was talking about his new book, which is all about wok cooking. And he said exactly what you said, that the key is really to have everything prepared and ready to go, because it really doesn't take long to cook. So if you start cooking and then keep preparing as you cook, you're going to get a very overcooked dish. So it sounds like you did the proper technique here.
Yay. I mean, I got the vibe from, like, I did my research, like I watched the episode again, see what they were doing, what Jazz was saying, and then just reading like multiple different recipes, and they're all the same vibe. So like I said, people use different vegetables, you can use whatever you have, but I think specifically if you're going for like the drunken noodles, it's all about that like dark, rich soy sauce and then those other sauces that you add to it. I will share a picture. I'm just going to share my final picture. It's a good one. I will say I could make it better next time, though, still, is what I would say.
That looks delicious.
That bok choy looks amazing.
Oh, I love the bok choy. I'm like, okay,
So bright.
I'll have this all the time.
Very nice food styling, Justine.
Thank you.
I see those photography boards coming to good use. I like the substitutions you made. I probably wouldn't have put bell pepper in either, just because it's not my favorite vegetable. So I like these substitutions you've made. Would you consider putting coconut aminos in your sauce, maybe?
Yeah, that would be tasty for sure. I love coconut aminos. I even just sometimes just fry up some tofu and just throw coconut aminos on it to finish it off. It'd be good in this. It would be, I think, lighter, sweeter. So if you're feeling that vibe, go for it. Make that substitution. And the oyster sauce was good. I opened it up. It's got that like funky smell to it. Like good funk. I can only say it like that when I'm like funk. It's mushroomy.
You said you were going to make it again?
Yeah, I think I'd make it again, but I will say I also really, really love like pad thai, like the lime peanut. I think I still prefer pad thai, but this wasn't bad, you know?
All right, we are going to take a quick break and we'll return shortly. And we're back. Now it is time to see what Meg has made for our potluck.
So, like Justine, I was not feeling terribly inspired by the recipes on this show. But unlike Justine, instead of challenging myself, I was like, what's something easy I can do that I've essentially done a million times before? So the answer to that was berries and cream.
I knew it!
Yeah. It was super easy, super tasty. Like I said, I've made some form of sliced berries with sugar before, so nothing too surprising here. The berries and cream recipe was featured in the Chef Film Recipes episode of the Chef Show because it was in the Chef movie. There's not very many ingredients here. You get equal parts raspberries, blackberries, blueberries, and strawberries, fresh, of course. You add to that sugar, some fresh mint leaves that have been julienned, and some Grand Marnier, which is an orange liqueur. And then perhaps the most interesting part of this recipe is the so-called caramel dust, which is caramelized sugar that you pour out, break into shards, ground up in your food processor, and then dust that over the entire dish. So this was the one thing that was somewhat interesting to me, definitely new to me. I'll get into that in just a moment. And the last element of this recipe is the whipped cream. it's exactly what you would expect it to be. So you start out by cutting the fresh berries, and then you add sugar to it. I cut the amount of sugar in half. It calls for half a cup of sugar, but that was a lot. I was adding it, stirring it. And of course, you let the berries sit for a while, and that does macerate in the berries, and it does become a syrup instead of this grainy sugar texture. But even knowing that, I was like, this is a lot of sugar. So I just stopped at half a cup, and I felt good about that. And something that I've noticed about some of Roy's recipes is that he doesn't seem to add a lot of additional salt. And if there's one thing that I've taken away from Bon Appetit that really resonated with me is to add salt to your desserts. It makes a nice complement to the sweet. So I added just a little pinch of salt to the berries, and I think that was a good addition. So the most exciting, though, was making the caramel. I've never made caramelized sugar before. And it was also the part that was a bit challenging because, as we know from the Great British Bake Off, caramel can be very finicky. And you're just supposed to put sugar in a pan and not touch it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. If you'll remember from the chef show, from this episode in particular, John made his caramel using half sugar, half water. But Roy was like, no, just use all sugar. And the recipe calls for just all sugar. So I'm like, okay, I'm going for the all sugar route. You put it in the pan. You're not supposed to touch it. You're supposed to wait for it to come to a boil. And then you kind of just like gently shake the pan to get it to that final sort of golden syrupy stage. It didn't quite work out that way for me. It started to clump together. I guess maybe that might be considered crystallizing, or sometimes it's just called seizing. The sugar seizes. So during the process, I was like, this doesn't look right. But I was like, okay, just trust. I'll just keep cooking it, and maybe eventually it'll turn into the right texture and consistency. And eventually it did. It did become liquid. It became this caramel color. But the end result is, or was, a bit cloudy looking, which is not how it's supposed to be. It should be this nice, clear, syrupy color. So it didn't look quite right. It did pour. It did taste good. But I was like, this isn't quite right. So I feel like I could improve upon that next time. And I teased in our previous episode that I used a tip from Jabibo for this, which is that when you're making the caramel, to use a wet pastry brush to push down any crystals on the side of the pan. So I did that. I was like, thanks, Jabibo, I guess. I don't know if it worked entirely, but it could have gone worse. I think this might have gone better if I had a thicker bottomed pan. My pan was rather thin, and I don't think distributes heat that well or that evenly. So I'm waiting on new pots and pans. I ordered them months ago, and they still haven't arrived. But maybe when my new pots and pans arrive, I will try this again. I'm going to send you some photos now, just because I did remember to take some in-progress photos for once, and you guys can see the caramel. And I also poured out the sugar on a silpat, which I had never used before. So I got myself a silpat a while back with the intention of using it for macarons, but I hadn't used it yet. So this was my inaugural use of the silpat, and it worked like a dream. The sugar did not stick at all. And then to finish making the caramel dust, you hit it with a mallet. So that's always fun.
Did you have a mallet?
I do. I have a meat tenderizer, so I used that. Yep.
You can go out to the garage and make
Yeah, I guess I could have gotten a legit hammer and done that too. But yeah, I broke it up into shards, and then you put the smaller shards into your food processor, and you just grind it until it's a nice fine dust. And then essentially all you do is put everything together. You finish up the berries by adding the julienne mint at the end. The mint doesn't macerate in the sugar with the berries. You add it at the end. You also add the orange liqueur towards the end. You top the berries with the whipped cream, and then you put the caramel dust on top.
Wow.
It was good, of course, because it's berries and sugar and whipped cream. What's not to like about that?
Even looking at this, when you say you half the sugar, I'm still like, this looks like a lot of sugar.
It was still pretty sweet. And also the orange liqueur is sweet. And then, of course, the whipped cream is sweet. You add powdered sugar to the whipped cream. It's a lot of sweet. So I think that the addition of salt was necessary. It was nice to balance it a little bit. And I did really like the mint. I don't typically add mint to my fresh berries, but I liked this addition. This was one thing that was surprising to me where I was like, oh yeah, that's good. It's nice because the mint tastes fresh. It's not sweet. It's kind of zesty, a little earthy even. So I liked the addition of the mint.
I was going to ask was how did the mint mix with everything?
Yeah, I really liked it because it cut through the sweetness. You had this nice sort of sharp element. So I don't know if I would always add mint. Usually when I'm making or preparing berries in this way, it's usually for like strawberry shortcake or maybe to put on angel food cake or even just to eat. So if I were just eating it, I would probably add the mint. If I were making strawberry shortcake or angel food cake, I would not add the mint because I think that would be maybe too much of maybe not working well with the rest of the elements for a more complicated recipe. But yeah, so it was easy. I would say I would make it again because I've made this 1,000 times before. And essentially there's not really anything new to this recipe. It's not the most creative. I'm just like, yeah, you've made macerated berries and cream. Groundbreaking.
Yeah, I made macerated berries that were on my Nadia Bakes potluck.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. I did like the caramel dust. I liked the sort of burnt sugar flavor. It wasn't burnt, but you know what I'm saying, that sort of like richer, kind of almost bitter taste. I think that complemented the cream well, and it looks nice.
Your whipped cream looks fabulous.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I sometimes overwhip my cream on accident, but I got it to a nice medium peak this time.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just zooming in on like the little crystals of the dust.
Yeah, I tried to make it look like how it looked on the show and the movie and in the photos on the website. I did end up adding more dust later because I liked the flavor of it, but it's not as photogenic because I just get this literally dusty looking dessert and it starts to melt in with everything and look kind of like syrupy. So it's not the most photogenic if you add more dust, but it is pretty tasty.
Nice. I'm surprised you didn't make the chocolate lava cake.
Justine, you don't know me at all.
You don't like chocolate.
There we go. You do know me.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about it. I'm like, that's what we had to choose from. We're like, these 2 to 3 things.
It's true. I almost made the roasted plums and peaches, but that was from an episode we hadn't watched. So I thought that might have been cheating. And also I didn't want to watch another episode.
I think it's interesting that none of us went for the pasta dish.
That was my runner-up because I always feel bad when I make sweets because my husband doesn't eat sweets. So I'm like, I'm making this thing all for myself. So I considered making the pasta, but, well, I didn't.
It's just everything was so simple. Like, all the recipes were so simple. I just did not feel it.
Yeah, I've never eaten at any of Roy's restaurants, but I don't know if I'd like to pay a lot for these types of recipes, you know? I don't know what his price points are for his restaurants, but if it's like super expensive, I would kind of be like, why? This seems like pretty basic recipes with basic ingredients.
But maybe also they're just the ones that he gave to Jon Favreau to learn and try or put in the chef movie.
Yeah. In the chef movie, it was implied that it was like a Michelin level restaurant. And if I got berries and cream at a Michelin restaurant, I'd be like, I am overpaid.
So overall, it seems like even though we were not wowed by this season, all the dishes we made are things that we'd try again.
I think the kind of funny through line, though, is that the recipes aren't that unique. Like, Justine referenced a bunch of other recipes to make hers. I've made essentially the same recipe before. Obviously, there wasn't anything too unique about the grilled cheese. It's it's bread and cheese. So, yeah, the recipes were good, but were they that special? Probably not.
Is the point of the chef show to learn the recipes? You know, like, exactly. It's more about watching some guys shoot the shit. So
that's true.
I guess we could have just been like, we're just going to have a completely inside baseball conversation, and that is our potluck episode. No one understands what's happening.
Yeah, how about we just talk about any celebrity we've interacted with before? Let's do that.
Scrap this whole thing. We're starting over. I hope you enjoyed our stirring conversation and our lovely potluck dishes. Now we're going to see what is on the back burner for today. So first up, a couple of new shows are coming to Babish. Earlier, we mentioned friend of the show, J. Kenji Lopez Alt. He and Babish are combining forces for a new show coming soon. And then there's also a new show that an episode has gone out called Soy Boys.
In which Babish makes mapo tofu. I haven't watched the video yet, but I did just get myself some mapo tofu mix, I guess you would call it. So I'm looking for a recipe. So I think I'll check out that video.
It's not Babish making it. I watched most of the first episode.
Oh.
It's very interesting. It's kind of like a friend is helping another friend on his healthy food journey after, I think, having like a heart operation or something. Sorry,
okay.
I didn't take notes. I'm sorry. It just entices the listener to go watch the show even more by how vague I am.
Yes. Do you think you would follow up and watch whatever the next episode for Soy Boys is?
Yeah, because it seems like they are, healthy-ish centered. I'm not sure if it's completely vegan, or I think it should be at least vegetarian for each one. I want to say. Sorry, this was like 2 weeks ago. I watched this too. Yeah. I think that there could be some interesting recipes on this show that I personally would be interested in.
So yeah, head on over to
Soy Boys.
Soy Boys. It's just a funny title. I mean, it works. Going back to our roots, recently on Instagram, Christina Chey announced that there is finally, after 2+ years of working on it, a Condé Nast union that has started. For all those that stuck around over at Bon Appetit, this is good news for them, for the employees. Also in her post, there was a cute picture of her and Hunzi.
Yeah, it's definitely confirmed now that Christina and Matt Hunziker are a confirmed couple. It's adorable. Hashtag Chunzi.
Oh, Meg, will you update that on our website?
I already have. Thank you very much. Christina also said about the formation of the union on Instagram, quote, "Those of you who have followed me and followed Bon Appetit Mag for a while watched what unfolded at Bon Appetit in 2020. I bring this up not to dredge up the past, but to revel in a vision of the future where we can secure better, fairer, more just working conditions. Yes, including fair pay for the next generation of workers across Condé Nast," end quote.
And if you, the listener, wants to drudge up the past, listen to our episode, hashtag Solidarity.
Yes.
It's just interesting that it has been almost 2 years since we put that episode out. And, we changed the whole thing of like what we were doing with our podcast. And then now finally they have a union.
They did the work.
Yeah.
They did. That is true.
Hopefully it means a better future for Bon Appetit. Or the people working there, I should say. That's what I care more about.
Yes, the people versus the corporation. And then speaking of Sohla, Sohla El-Waylly is joining Dan Levy's upcoming competition series, The Big Brunch, as a judge.
I'm really stoked for this show. I can't wait until it comes out.
Yeah, I think we're all excited for this. So, this could be something we cover later in the future.
No official release date yet, but it should be coming out sometime in this year, 2022, on HBO Max.
Ooh, HBO Max. I told you, that's where all the good cooking shows are. I'm telling everybody.
Well, we haven't covered something from HBO Max yet, so it could be happening.
Yeah.
And I know it was mentioned back burner last time, the Is It Cake show that Netflix now has. I watched a couple of episodes. So far, I'm enjoying it. It's really short. It's only it's a half-hour show, so probably 22 to 26 minutes. I enjoy Mikey Day on SNL, so it's fun watching him. And so far, yes, it's a competition, but it doesn't, there's not as backstabby as some competition shows are. You know what I mean? There's definitely a couple people that they have sitting on the sides that are, quote unquote, trying to shit talk, but, what it comes down to is that's all just, people, they end up being nice to each other, and, one guy picked somebody to compete against him because he was she has a 2-year-old daughter who'd like to see her on TV, so I want her to do that. It's just they end up being nice to each other. So I'm down for that. And it is, I know this is an older trend, but it's still fun to see something and be is that real or is that cake?
Have any of the cakes fooled you?
Yes, actually, in the first episode, there was one that fooled me. I was convinced one of the things was cake, and it was not. And when they cut open the one that was cake, I was shocked.
Shooketh.
But the rest of the ones I've been able to be oh, there it is. I've done better than
fun.
some of the people in the competition at guessing what is or not cake. It's just something fun to put on. I had a stressful day at work, and so it was nice to just come home and put on something kind of innocuous and fun. And then we have also, some of us have been doing some guest spots on other podcasts. What did you guest on, Justine?
Oh, yeah, I was guesting on Happily Ever Aftermath with Diana, our friend and listener, Diana Rojek-Sconard, and we talked about the movie, the film, the epic practical magic.
You put the lime
the
in the coconut.
Exactly. So check it out. It's literally just her and I giggling about how we wanted to be witches when we were in middle school for, however long the podcast is.
And then I guested with my friends Ellie and Liam on their new podcast, Insert Thing Here. And it is called that because the guest comes in and talks about something they're passionate about. And I talked all about historical romance novels because I've been reading dozens of them.
Yeah, you have. Everybody follow Amanda on Goodreads.
Because you have to have a book for on your Kindle, in the car, in your purse, on my phone. No, nobody else does it.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, thank you, Meg. So yeah, check out Insert Thing Here and check out Happily Ever Aftermath. To finish things up, we have some shout outs. Thank you to everyone who has interacted with us on social media. Special thanks to Mary for writing in about our digest episode. And Meg, she would like to know where her ice cream is.
I've already apologized, but I'll say it again. I'm sorry, Mom. I will share next time.
That's what you get for having a podcast that your mom listens to. She knows when you have food now.
Yeah.
And thank you to Raven Elephant on Twitter for trying Sumo Citrus based on Meg's recommendation on the show.
You're welcome. Continue to spread the good word about Sumo Citrus, although it's only available through the end of this month until next year.
Hurry, guys, hurry. Well, thank you so much for getting in touch with us. Love to share some reviews, so if you have a chance, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and also take a look at our merch on podappetit.threadless.com. I wore my Ghost Cake t-shirt earlier this week. It was very soft and comfortable.
Nice.
Next time on the podcast, we start a new season.
Woohoo!
Yay!
And we are going to be watching a selection of Rick Martinez's Sweet Heat on Food 52 on YouTube. So we're going back to our roots, back to one of our friends from Bon Appetit, who is no longer there, but we love Rick and we're very excited. We're not going to watch every single episode. But next time, the 2 episodes to watch if you want to watch along with us, we are going to be covering Mole Sensilo and Sohla and Rick swap cookies and shows.
Yeah, so keep an eye out on our socials, and we'll be announcing which episodes we're going to watch from YouTube so that you guys can follow along with us next season.
Well, thank you all again, and we'll see you next time.
Bye!
Bye. Thanks for listening to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
We'd love to hear from you, so find us on Twitter and Instagram at pod_appétit.
And on Facebook at Pod Appétit Podcast.
You can also email us at podappetitpodcast@gmail.com and find all of our episodes on our website, podappetitpodcast.com.
Greetings and salutations. This is Cage's Kiss, the ultimate Cage cast, where we discuss the movies and life of the national treasure, Nick Cage. My name is Linda, and every week I'll be joined by my brother Donnie and my best friend Adrian.
There are 3 of us here, and I can't help but notice that none of us are Nicolas Cage. Did nobody call him?
What? A Cage cast with no Nick Cage? What the shit's going on here?
No, instead of being Nicolas Cage, we're 3 Nicolas Cage experts, which is the next best thing.
I don't think we should admit to being experts.
Too late.
Unlike other Cage podcasts, we want you to participate. If you've seen Nick Cage out in the wild or have any other fun Nick Cage stories, we want to hear it. If you have any real-life dilemmas, we want you to send them in.
We are not experts at anything. We are not life coaches, and we are not in any way, shape, or form qualified to give you suggestions on life choices.
But Nick Cage is, and he's made hundreds of life choices.
We'll try to glean any wisdom we can from Nick Cage's character we're discussing that week to help you with your situation.
Seriously, I cannot stress enough just how much you should not take our advice.
But we're experts.
No, seriously, we're not experts.
Yes, but we will be reviewing his first acting gig as Nicholas Coppola, Best of Times, which features a young and very precious Crispin Glover.
And his work in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
And his work in My Nightmares. Please subscribe and join us every week on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Podcoin, YouTube, or our website, cageskiss.com.
We're experts.
We're not experts.